All right, guys, welcome back to the Den Cave, and we're on our next tier list. Yes, this is our second tier list of Mirrorverse. It is the May tier list, and if you guys didn't check out the first one, well, make sure you check it out. I explained a little bit more in detail of how we do our scoring and things like that. Our tier list is a little different than Easy and Ibby's, and I love their tier list, but the way we do it over here in the Den Cave is we break it down by class. So I like to make sure I'm looking at each guardian as it relates to their class and where they sit inside their class. So the important thing is, if you see a S tier ranged character, that doesn't necessarily mean they're S tier overall, but they are best in that particular class. Now, we've added some new scores in here based on the towers and different things that have come in and how usable a character is. So our list may look a little different than the other lists, so keep that in mind. But if you don't agree with me, or you think there's a character that should be somewhere else on this list, make sure to leave a comment down below. Now, you may also be asking, why is the May tier list coming out in the middle of May? Well, we just had some new Guardians dropping with Woody and Anna, and we got to use them. So that was one of those things that I wanted to make sure before I placed them on the tier list, I got to actually use them, understand how they are, to make sure that I have them in the right spot on this list. The other reason, yeah, we got a new Guardian. He is coming to the game. Hey, I'm not ready to talk about you yet. So we got a new Guardian coming to the game, and we haven't actually been able to see anything he's doing, but he looks pretty good. Yeah, I know, you look pretty good. I really like your kit. I think you may be in the top of that list. I mean, at this point, you'll look a little faster, better, harder, maybe stronger. I don't know, but we're gonna see next tier list where you may end up at. So with that being said, let's check out this tier list. Let's jump right into those ranged characters. And like with every tier list, we have our different rankings over here. We have S, A, B, C, and D. I like to keep a curve here, so you're always going to have somebody in that D slot. We're always going to have some people up in the S slot, but I really like to try to make sure that it's spread throughout, and we're not front loading or back loading any of the different categories, so just kind of keep that in mind. Let's start with those bottom two tiers, the C and the D class, and well, they're the same. They didn't change from last month. Really no movement within these characters. We've got Merida, we've got Hades, we've got Tink. They're all kind of in the bottom, and again, this class itself, it's a tough one. I really hope that they get a buff, and maybe with Tron, like we saw before, maybe we will get... Okay, calm down, just go back down. All right, so with this class, maybe we will get a character that's going to stand out at some point when they do some reworks. But at this point, ranged is rough. Ranged is pretty rough. So from there, we're going to go up to B. And once we get into B class, we're going to start to see a little bit of movement. Now, in my tier list, you're going to see these arrows. We've got Eve with 2 of those arrows. We've got Elsa with 1 of those arrows. And it corresponds to how many spots they're falling on the list. Now, within my tier list, I like to put them in order, not just within the different tiers. So this is showing you that Eve was 2 spots before, and now she's kind of at the end of the B class. And Elsa, well, she's dropping down as well. Now, I think these characters are still great characters, but when we look at the other ones, we're going to start to see a little more functionality within the other characters, and that's the reason why they're going to be moving up. So let's go over to the A class. In the A class, well, we've got a big move here. We've got Goofy moving up 3 spots, and really that comes from him being more usable within the different categories. So one thing that I've been doing with my tier list is looking at all those tags that are on these characters, all these traits, and based on his traits, he's going to be more useful in these different modes, which is why he's coming up. Now, I still have him at the low end of the list, and honestly, I still think he's probably closer to a B plus than an A, and only reason being he's harder to get. You're only going to get him in those alliance crystals. He's definitely not the best when it comes to the overall character alignment. Again, we've talked about this many times, but with the range class, they tend to be on the lower side of the entire group. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at investment, but Goofy is looking better now than he was before. Rounding out that A class is Buzz. Buzz is still a great character in here, and I still like to use him in the game. Now, as we get into the S class, we're going to see Judy still there, Gaston still there at the top. These are not changed, and honestly, if you're going to invest in one of these characters, Gaston is going to be the best one. He's needed for those dungeons, so when you get those 2x points in dungeons and things like that, he's probably who you're going to use if you have him, and he's definitely the best overall range character inside of the Mirrorverse. All right, so let's go ahead and stick those back there. we're going to move over to the tank. So let's pull up that tank tier list. And this is the category that I really like. I really like the tanks. I think that they make your teams much better overall. So finding a good tank is going to be crucial to making sure you're being able to punch up on a lot of those levels. So just like the range, let's pull up C and D. And here is the first big upset here. We have Blue moving out of the D class. We're going to be putting Genie down in that D class. Now, this one may be a little controversial. Blue is probably one of the worst characters in the game, but when we start to look at them, when we start to look at those tags, again, I'm going back to usability in the game, because yes, there's a lot of characters, they're very similar when you get to actually using them in battle. Are they better than this one or that one? It's gonna come down to where should your investment be. So that's the way I look at these games. If I'm having to invest into a character and I only have a couple different characters of that particular class, this is where I think Blue just edges out Genie just a little bit. Now, this also comes down to not having Gaston or something like that for these 2x bonuses, and that's where Blue gets the slight edge over Genie, because he is a 2x character when it comes to the dungeons that regularly come around. Now, I think Genie still has the ability of moving up if he gets a little bit of a revamp. He has a really cool skill where he's going to go invulnerable and not take damage, but as of right now, he's just not giving us everything that we want in a tank. All right, so next up, we're going to be pulling up that B tier, and that B tier has a couple moves here as well. So we got Sully dropping a couple spots and Donald moving up a couple spots. And again, this is just going to come down with the tags. Donald fits two of those towers, the Seafaring Tower and the Tech Tower. So he's starting to make a move a little bit up the charts, and this is why we're going to be putting him a little bit ahead of here. Now, he falls in that same category as Goofy. He's only going to be in those Alliance crystals. So if you have him 1-star, 2-star, there's probably some other tanks that are better, but he is going to be an okay investment for your later phases, especially when you know you're going to regularly get his crystals. Eventually, you will have this character pretty high just from doing your dailies with your laurels and things like that. So as we continue on, we're going to have the A tier. In the A tier, Maui has joined that A tier, and this one is one that kind of pains me a little bit because I love Maui, especially when I have Maui and Ariel together. They work very well, and then when you throw in your really good support, you've got a really great team. The problem is Maui doesn't necessarily work with every single team, and that's why he's coming down just slightly. So I would still put him as like an A+ tier. He is on the cusp of being S, but honestly, when we look at our S classes, you'll understand why, and this is kind of one of the reasons why Maui fell just a little bit in one slot to that top of the A bracket. All right, so lastly, we have the S tier, and the S tier, well, Baymax is coming up to the S tier, and again, Baymax is coming up there because of his tags. He is tech, and really when you get to that high tech tower, you're going to want a tank. Baymax is going to do the job there. With the rise of Hero coming into the format, it's really pushing Baymax up. It's pushing Mr. Incredible even higher than he was. And honestly, if you look at this overall piece, well, Mr. Incredible is the one you want. He is the best tank in the game, does the most damage, and just really shines everywhere. All right, so that is for the tanks. We're going to move over to the support, and let's just pop them up. So we've got the support over here. We can see we've got those same brackets here. And like I mentioned, we're going to have that nice curve. So with the curve, let's start with C and D. And yeah, no surprise here, no movement here. Now, Scrooge is starting to get a little bit of movement here overall. If you guys didn't check it out, there was a video that was just posted by Ibby the other day showcasing some ranged characters, and Scrooge plays a factor in there with focus. So I could 100% see Scrooge over time making his way up on this tier list, but as of now, the bottom of our tier list really haven't changed much, and that wasn't really unexpected. So as we get into the B tier, we've got a little bit of movement here. We've got Belle and Jack Sparrow kind of switching spots. And well, this really comes down to those factors of the towers. When you look at that Seafaring Tower, Jack really becomes one of your really great support characters there, and he's not really bad overall. Tiana, on the other hand, is one of those surprises. She is dropping down a couple spots, and well, I really loved Tiana when I started the game, but there's several other supports that are starting to shine in different modes, which is causing her to fall just a little bit on the tier list. All right, so next up, we have the A class, and the A class, well, we've got those moves you can see over there on the right. We have Frank, we've got Evil Queen. They are moving up, and really that is because of this 1v1 area. 1v1, yes, there's only so many rewards and things like that, but because you're going to need really good characters in each of the classes, you're going to need some damage dealers, and support really doesn't have that many great damage dealers. healers outside of these two. Now, I also like Frank in the Seafaring Tower, and this is kind of one of those things where he is a pretty good investment. So now the last one here is Mickey. Mickey did drop out of the S slot. We're gonna see who replaced him up in the S, but Mickey all around still one of the best characters in the support team. He's just a great healer. You can stick him on any team. He's gonna do that. He's gonna heal. He's got some stuns. He really just, it plays all the different roles that you want him to, but I still feel like the other two in the S tier are just a little bit better when you're using them with specific teams. All right, so let's head over to the S tier, and you can see that Jack Skellington, well, he's continuing to dominate this tier list. Honestly, I think he's one of the best supports. He gives you everything you want. He's a jack of all trades. Yeah, no pun intended. But he's gonna really help you out with his heals, his debuffs, his buffs, all that good stuff. And yeah, he's gonna continue to reign on this for a little while. Now, Hero's the one that's kind of popped in front of Mickey, and really that's because of the way he works. When he is connecting up to your other teammate, he's really gonna be boosting that damage, and he's shining. He's shining, guys. So if you guys haven't seen it, his tags with leader and tech are gonna help him over in those particular towers. And this is one of the reasons why he's starting to step in front of Mickey in that position. But again, Mickey, great character. If I had 3 S tiers, they would all 3 be up here. All right, so that is our support, and we're gonna head over to the melee group. And well, the melee group I really think is one of the best groups in the game. And as you can see, we're starting to get kind of flooded in the melee group. We had a couple new characters coming in with Woody and Anna. We'll see where they placed on this tier list, but we've definitely started to have so many characters that, as you can see, we have 2 D class characters. So let's go ahead and open up that D and the C. And well, we got a lot of movement when it comes to the melee class. Now, this may look a little crazy, but you also have to remember we have 2 new characters coming in, which are going to bump people around. So we're going to see a lot of movement anyway. No surprise, Minnie is still in that last spot. Really hope she gets a buff at some point, because at this point, I would not be spending my Stardust on her. I'd be using that Stardust for characters like Ariel, or even some of these other characters like Mulan that are in here way before I would ever use it on Minnie at this point. So we have Captain Hook falling down in that D class. Now we get in C class, we can see that Mulan and Herc have kind of fallen down. And I think that's just because of the way they're built. Now I think Herc is really good when you look at the 1v1. I think if we ever get a mode like a raid, we could see something where Herc kind of starts to stand out a little bit more because he wants to put debuffs on the same character. But overall in this game, when you're doing the big parties, the 3 versus 3 and things like that, well, Herc really doesn't shine as well as some of the other characters. And I still feel bad for Mulan, because I really do think Mulan is a great character. If you picked Mulan over, let's say, an Ariel or something like that right when you started the game, you're not in a bad spot. So even though she's in a C, don't really look at it that way, because she is a good character. It's just late game, her overall damage is just not going to be as good as some of the other characters that are above her. So as we go into B class, we're going to see some other changes too, and we're going to see our first Guardian coming in here with Anna. Now Anna's at the bottom of B. She really was kind of in between that B and the C. I really think she's very closely tied with Mulan, but she does have a couple good tags on her. I really think that she's going to be great once we get some future content in the game, because all of her stuff revolves around these Titanborns, and we really haven't seen that matter at the moment. Now I think we're going to get some type of mode, or even in the story, the Titanborns are going to take an even bigger approach in there. And once they start to be in these different modes and we need that damage, then that's where Anna's really going to start to shine. Now Rapunzel comes up just a little bit, and I really think this comes down to the fact that you are needing her on a few nodes inside the campaign, so that's going to give her some extra points there. So yeah. Now if you look at Anger, yeah, Anger is an A tier character, but because we have some new characters coming in, because we have some movement up in the top, Anger did fall down in B. Now again, I think he's more of a B plus, maybe an A minus, but he is falling down just slightly. And with wanting to keep that curve, well, we got to kind of keep it even, and that's why he kind of moved down. So next up, we have that A class, and this is where we're going to see our second Guardian, new Guardian in here, which is Woody. So Woody is really taking up that bottom of the A slot. I like him, but at the same time, I'm just not sure about him, and that's just me with a playstyle. But Woody is really good. The fact that he's ranged, plus he's melee, plus he can pull people close, he has a lot of tools in his belt. Again, no pun intended, but Woody is doing pretty good in that slot. Now, because of some of this movement, we had Snow White moving up 1 space, and we had Aladdin dropping out of that S tier right at the top of A. Now, it wouldn't surprise me over time if we see Aladdin drop a little bit further, but realistically, that's just because currently Aladdin really doesn't have too many great tags to be used in the different events or the different towers and things like that. Now, I think damage-wise, Aladdin is a very good character, and I believe if you know how to play him and you know how his mechanics work, you're going to do very well with them. Overall, in the game as a whole, Aladdin is starting to fall down the list a little bit, and it wouldn't surprise me when we get to next month if he's maybe fallen a couple more spots, unless we get some events and things that really want Aladdin as the star. So with that being said, we have the S tier coming up, and you can see that Scar is just barely edged out Aladdin into that S tier. Now again, I think Scar and Aladdin are very, very neck and neck, but with the fact that Scar is needed for that 2x dungeon, because he is needed in a few other events as bonuses, this is why Scar has kind of moved back up. He's got that royalty tag, and well, he's a pretty good character. I like using him, and I think that he is going to be able to really show you where your resources are going to benefit you the most when you're looking at those two particular characters. And that is the reason why he slid up into the S slot and Aladdin kind of fell down to that A slot. And with Scar becoming the new king of that melee tier list, we have its queen, which is Ariel. Now Ariel, she is still one of the best characters in the game. Her damage just scales so ridiculously high. And if you put her with characters like Maui, Jack Skellington, Mr. Incredible, there's so many teams you can put her with, and she's just going to really shine in that spot. Now I don't really see her going anywhere on the S tier because, well, she's just so good. So with that being said, let's pop that down here. And as you can see, we have our tier list. We have all our characters ranked pretty easily. I tried to kind of highlight a few of these characters, but definitely if there's a certain character you want a better breakdown on, how to use things like that, leave a comment below and I'll put out a deep dive video around that specific character. Now I will have this tier list graphic going up on the different Discords, so make sure to check that out. Again, tell me what you think about it. And if you like to see this type of content, if you like to see Mirrorverse and things like that, make sure to check us out on Twitch. This upcoming Monday, we're going to be also looking at this tier list and just kind of talking through it with everybody live. So make sure to stop by the Dan Cave. Let me know what you think live as we kind of break this down and talk through the different pieces of this tier list. But anyway, guys, this is the tier list. I really enjoy making this type of content. Make sure if you want to be updated with the new content that's coming out, you hit that like, you hit that subscribe button, and you hit that bell for the notifications. We have plenty of videos coming up as we get closer to the launch of Mirrorverse on June 23rd, and I can't wait to put more of this out there. We should have one more tier list right before we go live with global launch, so I'm really excited to see how this is going to shake up over the next couple weeks, especially with new events coming in and the fact that we can continue to tweak our scoring system. Now, I appreciate you guys supporting us, and make sure to check out some of the other great Mirrorverse content creators out there. You've got It's Guess Gaming, you've got Ibby, you've got Easy, you've got Scholar. There's so many guys out there making content. So make sure you also give those guys some love. Hit the subs over on their channel because, you know, it really helps us out when it comes to doing this content. And until next time, guys, y'all take it easy.